Inside and out of the ring, John Cena is a consummate professional and a role model to many. He is a hero to children and adults alike due to his work in WWE as the face of the company, making appearances, doing charity work, and of course being one of the best performers the Squared Circle has ever seen. Here is the John Cena that we all know and love. John Cena is a man of class, but we are all human and everyone has flaws. This video today will not be a crazy conspiracy or a ridiculous false claim about John Cena. Instead, I will look at the side of John Cena that WWE does not necessarily want you to know about, but instead, they want you to forget. I'm going to examine some of the things you may not know about John Cena, while focusing on the time he refused to put the Nexus over at SummerSlam 2010. While the Nexus story will be the focus of this video, I will spend a moment discussing two other less than ideal situations that John Cena was a part of. One involving Mickie James and Kenny Dykstra, while the other involves Alex Riley. Regarding Kenny Dykstra's animosity towards John Cena, Dykstra took to Twitter with some heavy claims that John Cena caused a rift in between Dykstra and his real-life fiancée Mickie James back in 2007. Mickie James confirmed during an interview with Lillian Garcia saying that she and John will remain professional while working together during her return in 2017. Rumor has it, and according to Dykstra, that John Cena used his power backstage to have both Dykstra and Mickie James released by WWE. Whether you believe that or not is entirely up to you. John Cena ruining an engagement and then getting both performers promptly released is certainly something that WWE wishes you would forget. It seems like all three parties have moved on, with Dykstra making an appearance for WWE in a storyline with Dolph Ziggler a few short years ago. During a 2020 interview with Chris Van Vliet, Alex Riley offered some insight as to the friction between himself and WWE's face of the franchise, John Cena. He stated that the situation was nothing more than two men who did not like each other. Allegedly in 2012, Alex Riley reacted in an angry manner to a backstage prank orchestrated by John Cena. From then on, Cena made Alex Riley's life hell backstage. Riley was thought to be a breakout star in WWE after his run with The Miz in 2010 and 2011. Just as Riley was beginning to receive a singles push, John Cena stepped in and would quote-unquote bury him, according to former WWE superstar Ryback. Another former WWE star, Tyler Rex, recalled an incident where John Cena was going through Alex Riley's bag backstage, quote, like he was looking for reasons to get him fired, end quote. Roman Reigns hinted at this during a promo on an episode of Raw in the build-up to his match with Cena at No Mercy 2017, saying, "I don't have a mirror, but do I look like a jacked up white guy with a giant head and a military crew cut? Nah, if I did, I wouldn't have a career here. You don't believe me? Ask Alex Riley about that," end quote. Alex Riley confirmed that Cena was the reason for the end of his push in WWE while talking to Van Vliet. Even Arn Anderson validated this claim on an episode of The Arn Show. John Cena seemingly used his relationship with Vince McMahon as a top guy in WWE to end Alex Riley's career in WWE simply because he looked like John? That is interesting, but it is business, and sometimes that's just the way life goes. Now moving on to the juicier story that has been discussed for years and years, involving John Cena and his indecision to put over the Nexus in the summer of 2010. This story has been talked about at length, and I'm going to attempt to offer a different perspective on it. First off, the Nexus made their debut on an episode of Monday Night Raw on June 7, 2010 in one of the most iconic moments in WWE and Monday Night Raw history. This moment was so intense and full of memorable images, from Daniel Bryan choking out Justin Roberts, to the ring ropes being destroyed, to John Cena being stretchered out on live TV. This moment was a rare moment of weakness for Cena since his rise to stardom in 2004. He had been presented as a superhero in this era throughout the late 2000s and early 2010s. In hindsight, this story of the Nexus appears as just another obstacle for Super Cena to climb over when Cena vanquished Team Nexus a mere 2 months later in the main event of SummerSlam. However, people saw greater potential in the Nexus, particularly Wade Barrett, with many viewing him as a future WWE champion. Let's look at the members of the Nexus, and there truly was a ton of future star power involved. Wade Barrett, Daniel Bryan, Ryback, David Otunga, and eventually Husky Harris, you may have heard of him, were all parts of the Nexus even before they were Ryback or before they were Bray Wyatt. Those guys were all in Nexus. Had Nexus gone over on John Cena at SummerSlam, they, without question, would have been a major deal in WWE for a very long time. There were two things working against the Nexus. First and foremost, Vince McMahon, he's just not a fan of factions. This is well documented. And second, John Cena simply refused to put them over. Also well documented. I cannot put into words just how big of a moment the Nexus invading Raw was. It is amazing to me that nothing significant ever came from this moment. This moment had breathed new life into WWE fans after watching a stagnant product for the better part of 2009 to early 2010. Let's examine just what transpired backstage the night of SummerSlam from two guys who were there. Edge and Chris Jericho once spoke about this incident on an episode of Talk is Jericho. They stated that they had been actively attempting to persuade Cena to put over the Nexus, and Cena said that he felt like it was the right thing for him to go over. Cena for many years has given the same answer when questioned about putting people over. He simply says that the final decision is ultimately Vince McMahon's. However, during an interview in Australia, Cena was asked specifically about the Nexus, and Cena had this to say, quote, "But we tell so many stories, I was wrong once."
Literally,
quote. He gave a whole speech about how Vince had the final say before ending the quote with that phrase that I just read. Justin Gabriel gave an interview to Wrestling Inc. and mentioned that John Cena admitted to the Nexus group backstage that he was wrong and should have put them over. This is one fatal flaw on John Cena's resume, as he presumably spent the rest of his in-ring career in WWE making up for this mishap by putting over the likes of AJ Styles, CM Punk, and Kevin Owens. It's safe to say that the botched Nexus angle greatly affected the WWE at the start of a new decade in 2010, as WWE really did not recover from this horrendous booking decision until the summer of 2011 when CM Punk unleashed the pipe bomb promo. John Cena will always be remembered as WWE's Babe Ruth or LeBron James, barring in any extreme turn of events. But this video proves, if nothing else, that John Cena is human and capable of making mistakes like myself and everyone watching. This has been the dark side of John Cena, and I will leave you with this question. What if John Cena had put over the Nexus? Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Have a great day.